Well, good morning to you again from my vehicle. It's a lovely day here in the UK again, and we're starting to get into gear for summer. And of course, as I said yesterday, the celebrations are on for this Platinum Jubilee of the Queen, which I must confess is generally passing me by, because for every day that we live with the Lord, every day is a Jubilee. Every day should be a day of praise, shouldn't it? A day of realization of the salvation that's been bought for us. And I think that's the most important thing. But sometimes we wake up in the morning and there are troubles on our minds and things on our heads that we can't seem to shake off. And I had a dream the other night that I want to share with you. It's very short. And sometimes I find the first 15 minutes of having gone to sleep, I might just suddenly have a lucid dream. And they're not always great dreams, and sometimes I find the enemy gets to me, as he does to all of us. And we know that we have that power in the name of Jesus to stand against the enemy. But sometimes a dream gets through, a bad one, and but sometimes they're for a reason. They're not always negative without a reason. And this particular one struck me, and I want to share with you. I was driving my car and just going along the road quite happily, quite merrily, and all of a sudden in front of me was a brick wall. It literally came out of nowhere. I mean, you're driving along the road, you don't expect to see a brick wall, and suddenly my car was literally driven right into this brick wall, and the whole front of the car was damaged. And it's really quite strange, because when I got out, the damage looked as though it was repairable. And in a way I was quite pleased about that, because it wasn't too serious. And the dream ended. And the thought crossed my mind, how something can come upon us by surprise. Something suddenly. And I thought about sin. Sudden sin. The sudden surprise of a trigger that could just click you back into the past. Of course, for an alcoholic, it's quite a serious thing. If you smell a particular alcohol or you see a particular drink, and temptation starts to come again into your life. And we all have those triggers, don't we? We all have those particular things. And what came to me out of this dream was, your car's damaged, but don't leave it unfixed. Just to stop a second, we have a pony and trap going past us. It's quite interesting. I don't know if you can hear the horse's hooves. There's two people sitting in a cart and the horse pulling them along there. That was a surprise. So I'd like to share some scriptures with you that speak about sudden happenings, and how important it is, especially on that side of things, for us to be on our guard. I'll start with 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 3. And it says this. I'll go from verse 1, verses 1 to 3. Now, brothers, about times and dates, we do not need to write to you, for you know very well that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. That's a familiar verse, isn't it, to all of us? While people are saying peace and safety, destruction will come upon them. Suddenly. That's the key word there, suddenly. As labor pains on a pregnant woman, they will not escape. And it's that suddenness, you see. That's the point that I felt the Lord emphasizing to me. It's sudden. I can be sitting here in this field at the moment, enjoying the peace. In fact, it reminds me of another situation with a car that I had some years ago. I was driving to school. I was still in teaching at the time. And I pulled into the normal junction where I was about to turn right. And I was standing still. And all of a sudden, a massive bang at the back of my car. My car was pushed forward, and I was pushed into an oncoming car. And the corner of my right-hand corner of my car hit the oncoming car. But it all happened in a split second. And suddenly I was spun round and in the middle of the road. And I can be thankful that the only thing that happened to me was that I got a scratch on the side of my head. But it was sudden. And it was literally that moment of waiting just to turn right and expecting to arrive all in one piece at the school, and my car was a complete write-off. And I really don't know today how I managed to get away with just that scratch. But that's the way that things are. We're often protected, aren't we? We're protected from sudden things. But sometimes the Lord allows a trigger in our lives, and he allows it for a certain reason, to test us. What will we do now that we've been triggered back into the past, triggered back into an old sin? All of a sudden, you know the expression, all of a sudden. Proverbs 6:15. Let's have a look here. Again, I'll go back to verse 12 here, which is quite interesting. A scoundrel and villain who goes about with a corrupt mouth, who winks with his eye, signals with his feet, and motions with his fingers, who plots evil with deceit in his heart. He always stirs up dissension. Therefore, and here's the important word here in verse 15, therefore, disaster will overtake him in an instant. He will suddenly be destroyed without remedy. There it is again. God warning us all the time. Things can happen to you suddenly. All the more reason for us to be walking with God so carefully in the mornings, so carefully in the afternoon, so carefully in the evening, all the time, being on our guard, unless we're tripped up. Ecclesiastes 9:12. Moreover, no man knows when his hour will come. As fish are caught in a cruel net, or birds are taken in a snare, so men are trapped by evil times. They fall unexpectedly upon them. I'll just repeat that. As fish are caught in a cruel net, or birds are taken in a snare, so men are trapped by evil times that fall unexpectedly upon them. And I believe this is the way that the enemy is going to work in these last days. He's going to try and trip us up. And we've got to be on our guard so carefully. Because the final scripture that I'll share with you is probably to me the most important. I'll get to that in a minute. Genesis 7, verse 11. Just reinforcing this message. Genesis 7:11. In the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the second month, on that day, all the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were opened, and rain fell on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. There's an appointed day. Noah possibly was waiting. He didn't know the exact day or the exact hour. God knew. And it's a blessing when there's a warning. It's a blessing, isn't it, when we have that sense from God, be careful. This could be a time of temptation for you. That situation, don't walk into it, because I'm about to bring about a calamity. I don't want you involved. So it was a very specific day in Noah's life that God had chosen. And there's a specific day that the Father has chosen to send Jesus. And he comes back, and that second time, and as Jesus said, only the Father knows that time. So let's be careful. So, just to end with this, there's 1 Corinthians 10, and it's verses 1 to 13. I'd like to read the whole thing in context for you. I'm reading from the NIV this morning because I want it in plain English, in plain language. Much as I love the KJV, I know many of you out there will say only KJV, but I believe it's important to make comparisons, and sometimes just to have things written in simple form. For I do not want you to be ignorant of the fact, brothers, that our forefathers were all under the cloud, and they all passed through the sea. They were all baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. They all ate the same spiritual food, for they drank from the same spiritual rock that accompanied them. And that rock was Christ. They didn't even know it, did they? Nevertheless, God was not pleased with most of them, and their bodies were scattered over the desert. After all that had happened, God was not pleased with them. They'd seen all the miracles, they'd seen all the glory. Now these things occurred as examples. That's the important thing. The Bible's full of examples, which is a good thing for us, to keep us from setting our hearts on evil things as they did. Do not be idolaters, as some of them were, as it is written. The people sat down to eat and drink and got up to indulge in pagan revelry. That was the choice they made, wasn't it? We should not commit sexual immorality, as some of them did. And in one day, 23,000 of them died. 23,000 in one day. We should not test the Lord, as some of them did, and were killed by snakes. Well, Lord, a little bit of this won't, I know I can't help it, so I'm just going to do it. And it's that indulgence, isn't it? It's that little indulgence when we have the choice to turn away. And do not grumble, as some of them did, and were killed by the destroying angel. These things happened to them as examples, and were written down as warnings for us, on whom the fulfillment of the ages has come. So if you think, and this is the key verse, if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. No temptation has seized you except what is common to man. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will provide a way out so that you can stand up under it. So 3 things to know. And this is how it happens. Temptation, way of escape, choice. And they happen in that order all the time. God says, He's faithful to make us a way of escape. And the choice is to continue or to stop. Continuing, of course, means that we get deeper and deeper and deeper into something that maybe drew us in the past that we'd had victory from. None of us are immune. Don't think that you stand. Don't be arrogant against another brother or sister. Don't point your fingers at their sin, because it's so easy that brick wall can come up in your life, and all of a sudden the front of your vehicle is damaged. And when we're damaged, it sometimes takes a long time to repair. It can take a long time to pick yourself up again. The old saying, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and start all over again. That's the old song. Take heed. Don't think you stand. Don't think that you're beyond it anymore, because the enemy's out prowling around like a roaring lion, waiting for whom he can devour. Sin crouches at the door, the sudden sin. You never know when it can happen. So may the Lord give us the grace and power to always be on our guard. And I pray today is a blessed day for you.